Welcome to episode 36A of Success Demo. Each episode analyze the theoretical and practical aspects of our newly released cards. So today's card will be Endless EULA. Joining me to discuss this today is none other than World's 2017 Top 8 competitor, Abram Job, better known as the Big Boy. Hey Abram, how's it going?
Hey. How's it going? I'm good.
Awesome. Nice to finally have you on my channel after having met you at Worlds the year before. So, Endless... today we'll be talking about Endless EULA. It's an ice that ends the run. It has a 6 res cost and 0 strength. Why would we ever play an ice with such a ratio?
It costs 6 credits for them too.
That's
it's really
pretty
good.
much it. Yeah, that's pretty much it, and that's pretty good. So
it's really good. Like, if you think about Tollbooth, right, and like how that does against everything. Mm-hmm. So like Tollbooth against Orchestra is 9 credits. If they have any supporting card, it's 6 credits, right? So if they have Data Sucker or Ice Carver, it's 6, or Hunting Grounds. Yep. And against Gordian, it's 7. But problem with Tollbooth is it costs 8. And it's vulnerable to these supporting cards, and it's vulnerable to Fem. Really vulnerable to Fem, which people play all over the place now. Whereas EULA, like, is $6 basically no matter what. Like, all of the ways to circumvent it, no one plays. Like, you'd need something like Sherman. I guess you can, like, grappling hook it, but that's kind of whatever. I mean, they still have to pay 2 for the hook, and then... So, I don't know. That's like not that big of a deal, and it only happens once.
Yes. So
and 6, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, the best answers against it, your Sherman, your Morningstar, are basically not very viable against all the other barriers.
Nobody's playing those cards.
Yeah.
So, somebody did Sherman me once, and it was pretty bad. I don't know. Then you just don't res it, I guess.
Rip. But yeah.
I think a lot of people. It is a big deal that it doesn't hurt them on res, but that's why I think it's only good in rush. I think it was Dan who said this. I might be wrong, but Dan said that the key to Glacier is that anytime they hit your ice, they have to pay money, and that's why Food Coats was so good, because there was like, except for Turing, there was like nothing you could hit where you weren't gonna have to pay money or clicks to deal with it.
Yep.
And so that's how you stopped yourself getting like bullied out of your big res costs. They couldn't just like hit all your stuff because they got hurt every time. Mm-hmm. And so if you try to play this thing in a defensive deck, they're gonna bonk into it and then they're gonna beat the crap out of you. So like they're gonna hit this and then you pay 6 and then they run somewhere else and mining accident you twice and you have no money and then you're dead. So I think it only works in rush where you do make them pay when they hit it, because you're going to win the game if they don't pay through it.
Yep.
And so that's the key to this card. And the fact that it costs 6 instead of 8 compared to Tollbooth is actually an enormous deal. 6 is so much less than 8. Yeah. So I think the card is really good, but you can't... It feels like a taxing Glacier-y card, and it's not. The tempo hit hurts you too bad in decks like that.
It's really interesting. I have this whole checklist of questions I meant to ask you about Endless EULA, like an endless checklist of questions, but it seems like you basically covered them all. I was gonna say, Endless EULA seems like basically a big Eli 1.0, right? Like, it's a barrier that pretty much costs for most runners the same to break as it costs for the corp to rest. And as we all know, Eli was ubiquitous back in the day. People were splashing for it, our faction. So I was going to ask, like, is EULA, do you think EULA will be in every single NBN deck? And obviously, you mentioned that Rush is its main home. What do you think about EULA in, say, for example, your generic CTM, the most common NBN deck that we had?
I think you could play it there. I think you could play, like, 1. It's really, I mean, slots in that deck are like a nightmare, especially ice slots.
Yes, for sure.
So I can't imagine you could fit more than 1 in the deck, but it could be good. It's definitely a good way to like guarantee a score if you closed accounts them, because they're like never going to get through it, probably.
Ouch. Yeah.
It's pretty. I don't know. It's kind of vulnerable to stim hack. Like basically against my deck, stim hack always steals an agenda unless I NGO'd them,
Mm,
which is kind of the plan.
yeah.
But
Yeah. And
it's
the
just
other
how it goes.
sure is. And the other thing is, I mean, EULA's a bit funny because the zero strength is pretty much irrelevant. Although
Yeah.
it makes us really wish that we had Parasite. I mean, I know you rated this a solid 7 out of 10 in the StimHack Court predictions, and I personally give it a respectable 11 out of 10 for flavor alone. But would your rating
Oh
be
yeah.
lower if EULA existed in a world with Parasite?
Oh,
Oh.
yeah, it would be unplayable. I think if you faced Parasite even a third of the time, the card would be impossible to play if
Yeah,
Parasite was legal.
sounds about
You
right.
lose the game. If your 6 cost ice that has no face check value dies instantly to Parasite, you can never play it.
Yep.
Like, I guess the only way, especially if it's porous, right? Like, because
Yeah.
sometimes you could get away with ice that died to Parasite if it like let you score a really good agenda right then because they didn't have their Parasite right away.
Yeah.
But
This doesn't gear
that
check.
is not the
and
case.
it
Not the
immediately
case for
dies.
this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really like this thing. When you're rushing and you put it in front of your real gear check. So you have like your thing that's either vanilla or Enigma or Tollbooth if you're really rich. And you have this in front. And so they have to pay 6 just to find out what the check is.
Yeah. So
And
they
so you
really
get
have
these
to.
situations, yeah, they have like Orchestra or Paperclip, and you have 2 points already, and you've got something advanced behind there, and they run, and it's EULA, and it's like they have to pay 6 just to find out that they have the right breaker,
Yeah.
or the wrong
Or
breaker,
really
and
think twice about whether they want to pay 6 to even see your second ice.
right,
So.
right, and sometimes your second ice is like a second EULA, and then it's like, well, they got it, but they paid 12, and then you just back-to-back them, and
That is.
it's kind of the idea is you get ahead on points, you can kind of trade agendas with them through this thing, and they can't keep paying.
Yeah, that's completely true. That is one of the most disgusting things you can do. Double EULA. So. Alright. Sorry. So, alright. So, with that said, we are going to see a deck built by yourself, featuring this wonderful piece of ice. And for those viewers who have seen my successful demo Egg Infusion series, I will be sparring against the big boy with the Canadian Nationals Valencia deck. So this should be an interesting series of battles. I'd just like to say that we played a whole bunch of matches, I think at least 5, and I pretty much well and truly lost most of them, so doesn't feel good.
That's okay. It's a good deck.
It is a good deck, and we'll talk more about it. Okay, so we are off, and I see. So before we start talking about this game, your Asmari deck is surprisingly not a rush deck. I mean, sorry, not a glacier deck. Even though you're running a lot of big ice like Tollbooths, like endless EULAs, you can see your first turn you're going straight for remote ice, remote install. So what's up with this play?
Well, you gotta like get them moving, And see here, I make this exchange where I put a value
there?
asset behind a pop-up,
Yep.
and now I can just like every time I draw a value asset, I can put it back there, and it basically negates your bad pub and gives me some money.
Yeah, given that I have to trash the asset because well, okay, spoiler alert, this wasn't the first game we sparred against. I'm aware that there are some really nasty never advanceable cards in your deck, not just Project Bew. There's Amani Senai, which is pretty nasty. We'll talk more about that in another video. There's also Rashida. Rashida is very powerful if you manage to get her off turn 1. So yeah, there's lots of reasons for me to check your remote early on.
Yeah.
It's just
something to point out.
Go ahead.
Something to point out is you played a Sure Gamble and ran and gave me 2 credits. I
Yep.
think I would have tried to play the Inject this turn to get both your events out of the way, and then hopefully play 0 events next turn. Because I'm gonna
Uh,
name event every turn because of mining accident.
that's a
It's
very
like
good
the best way to
observation.
combat that card.
Yeah. That
So I
yeah.
think what did you do? You gambled and ran and then
Click for 2 credits.
took 2. Yeah, I think I would play the inject, and maybe you discard, but I think it's okay because 2 credits is a lot of credits. Like, you gave me 3 credits this turn. It's kind of nuts if you
Yeah.
think about it.
So my
Like,
thing,
if you
I said,
giving them 3 credits is taking a hedge fund and putting it into their hand. That's how bad it is.
it is. I think one thing I'm really bad with in my series of sparring matches against you was that I basically ignore your economy after realizing that there was
Yeah,
no way to stop it, and it's
yeah.
probably
That's
not a
why
good
I have the
idea.
booths and the EULAs because people do that. They just give you money and then you smash them with this ridiculous ice.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, in defense of my play, I was setting up for dropping the bracelet and taking money next turn.
Hmm.
But yeah, you're absolutely
Yep.
right. I think I could definitely have squeeze and inject there.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. Yep.
So we'll continue the video here. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it was quite risky if I played the inject. But
Yeah. If you hit 4 non-programs, it's kind of
exactly.
bad. But
Yeah, but yeah, it's like playing against Polana. I really should be trying to have some off turns where I, don't give the court money. All right, so there you see.
that was mean. You
Yep.
took my agenda.
I steal your agenda, but you get a Rashida off because I can't be bothered to check a 2 deep remote.
Mm-hmm.
So you are not that afraid of central pressure. I guess central pressure is not that powerful, at least not with this Canadian Valencia deck.
No. And I have. They need half my agendas to win, so I'm not like too scared, unless they have Mad Dash.
Yeah,
They
so
can like index and take an agenda. It doesn't really matter.
yeah, so for those of you unaware, Big Boy's agenda suite is 3 of each agenda: Bew, Sales Team, and Global Food. So
It's only 2 foods because I only need 18 points.
of course, yes,
Yeah.
yes, it's a
So it's
44
only
card.
it's only 8 agendas. They need half of them. It's really
Yes.
tough.
It is, yeah, nice.
And I'm scoring so many of them and getting them out of play really quickly that I'm not like too scared
Yeah,
of losing on centrals.
so you see, this is an A characteristically fast rush deck. Like it's turn 4, it's only turn 4. There are 3 eyes on that remote, and you have the
Yeah, I
money
got
to
a
rest
lot of
all
cards
it.
installed.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I think this is kind of panicky by you. This is like really aggressive.
Yeah, I guess I was trying to attack HQ, thinking that if you have agendas in HQ, that's the way to go. Because I
Yeah.
think one thing I don't do it often enough is to check your HQ.
Yeah. I think if you concede the remote though, like it's going to be tough for you to get points just hitting centrals while ignoring the remote. Like I don't know.
Nope, you are
Like
completely
this is
right.
getting
I
this is
think
getting out of hand.
yeah, I think I was basically playing to my hand here because that first inject didn't get me any breakers, I think. So yeah, there was no point in running the remote when I don't have an answer to barriers or code gates.
Sure.
Yeah, so at this point I'm just doing damage mitigation, trashing your assets. But you are, conceding that agenda in the remote.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yep. So at this point you are filthy rich, and I have a
It's
good amount.
interesting by me that I put down all that random stuff. That tells me that I think I have more agendas
Yeah.
because I'm trying to keep you busy.
And
Like I would, if I didn't have more agendas, I would never throw that Rashida away. I think.
yeah, and you can't really see my facial expression here, but I did a scowl when you put the eyes on archives because
Oh,
I was
psychic.
so ready to rebuff into Omar this turn.
Well,
And-
I think you're showing me your draws, right? Because of Find the Truth.
Oh, of course I was. Yes, of course.
Yeah. I don't know if I was actually like maybe I was paying attention to that. I usually don't, but I might have seen it this time.
No, that's perfectly right. Yes, of course you did.
It's way harder on JNet to notice the Find the
Yeah.
Truth.
All right, so Yeah, basically in just running every turn, getting find the truth triggers. Obviously not running R&D otherwise. I need to conserve every single credit, and just trying to get all the efficient economy cards out of my hand. So daily cast first, liberator
Yep.
account second, and employee strike. It's not gonna do anything when you're on
It's
21
really good on
credits.
turn one. It'll probably buy you like a turn or two of time
Yeah,
if you
for
play
sure.
at turn one.
Yeah.
You have no breakers right now?
Nope.
Oh, that's really bad.
Actually,
you
I
have
do have the
orchestra.
Black Orchestra. Yeah.
You got a couple.
Yeah. So at this point, I'm asking myself, do I risk running a remote, suffering from the paperclip gear check? And I told myself, well, I don't have a paperclip, but I do have a rebuff, and you iced up archives
Oh, yeah.
anyway. So.
I remember this game now. I remember when you did this, I was super happy. Because I did not want to get Omar'd, even though I had Archives Ice. I think the Archives Ice is like a pop-up or something. It's something stupid, I think. Just to
Right.
like try to get you to not rebirth.
Yeah, I guess that's another good reason to hold back the rebuff, because this way I get to stim hack to a remote, being fairly sure I can get through it. Turns out it's a
Mhm.
double EULA, so that took away 12 of my 9 stim hack credits.
Yep. Oh wow, what a play.
That was totally an agenda. That had to be an agenda.
It looked like one to me too.
It-
But
Oh man, that
then when I saw the double EULA, I kind of thought it was NGO.
feels bad. So yeah, it's double
That's
EULA
one of my
into
favorite
pop-up
things.
on the remote. That's 13 credits of tax.
Yeah.
I mean, I came out behind after the stim hack run. You don't usually do that, by the way, and
Yeah.
I didn't even get an agenda for all my efforts. So that
And
was terrible.
Yeah, so now if I get an Ash in that remote, it goes from a 13 credit remote to a 29 credit remote.
Yes,
Which
like
is not,
at that
that's
point,
not a thing.
this is kind of the breaking point where it's completely not worth it to challenge your remote at all. At this point, the only way I'm winning is off centrals. It's not even turn 10, and you have managed to. I mean, that remote was there by turn 4.
You say that, but if you build a bunch of money, you can at least make me put another ice on the remote, which can make your central attack easier.
Yeah.
A lot of people make this mistake where like they concede the remote and make it obvious that that's what they're doing, and then you can just shore up your centrals. But if you're not sure if they're still on the remote or not, they can like trick. Like you could get me to put like another good thing on the remote, and then it's easier to run R&D or whatever.
That's a fair point. Yeah. I mean, remote locking is still a thing.
Like once you do this, I'm like, okay, he's done with this remote.
Yeah, that's true. I think at this point I just really wanted to get find the truth triggers and turning wheel counters.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
I think that was a whiff. So no further runs there.
You got all your breakers now.
I do. So unfortunately, they're all in the bin. That's an important thing to note. So even though I have 20 credits, I'll need half of that to set up my breakers.
Yeah, so I think I'm not trying agendas. I wonder why I threw that Rashida away. I might have done it because I thought, like I put down Amani and Rashida, I might have thought that you maybe could have gotten the CST. Oh, that's right, because the ice was EULA. So I was worried about you just like checking and paying through and taking it.
Yep.
And I wanted to be able to do other good stuff if you did that.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a hedge against you taking my agenda.
Mhm.
Makes sense.
Yep. I made a very questionable decision here to install the paperclip, even though I was Quetzal. I do not know.
Oh,
what I
yeah.
did. But yeah,
Oh, you took it back, it looks like.
yeah, I did. Yeah, it turns out that your HQ runs are basically free because I'm Quetzal. So it's not that taxing. But I do see a global food on R&D, and I do have a mad dash in hand. So that's where I basically fired
man.
off. And I mean, I'm pretty much getting through
I must
this.
lose this one, right?
Yeah, this was the one game where I won against you.
Oh, yeah, Mad Dash is a good card.
Yeah, and I cheesed out the victory with the turning wheel counters. So this was the game
Oh,
where
shit.
you basically you had like 6 turns to score agendas, but you only found the CST.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that's a rush deck for you. If you don't find your agendas, bad things happen.
Yeah. I mean, my board looks really good here. If you didn't have Mad Dash, I would be feeling...
Yep.
Oh yeah, this was the game where I told you exactly that. Oh god, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Where, like, if you don't have Mad Dash, it's, like, super hard to win this way.
Yeah.
But you can do it with Dash.
Do you see my credit pool? I ended that R&D run on
You
3
don't have
credits.
a lot left.
It's...
And this R&D is, like, you're not going back in there.
No. Yeah.
It'll be tough.
It's a very punishing deck. I mean, we call it a rush deck, but it taxes just as much as a glacier deck. It's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if they concede the econ game and just, like, run through pop-ups and, like, play into your ID every turn, then you can just res huge things everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the other problem is that this Canadian Val Nats Val is just... The Breaker Suite is just not optimized for this sort of ice.
Well, yeah, I don't know what's...
But yeah,
what is
what
good
is?
against this ice.
Yeah, it's true, yeah.
I mean, there's things that match up against it, like, you can fem Tollbooth and, like... But it's tough to have things that are good against, like, Archangel, EULA, and Tollbooth all at the same... And Gear Checks all at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the main thing. Yeah, so... Endless EULA, pretty good. I mean, just two of them on the remote, and I'm like, this remote is done.
Never again.
I mean, even though I won this game, maybe I had a better shot if I locked your remote. Like, just spend all my turns taking money and running your advanced stuff. I'm not sure how that would work out.
That's tough. Like, NGO makes that really hard.
Exactly, yeah.
And... Yeah, and you have to succeed so many times because the agendas aren't worth that many points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess given the board state, it wouldn't be unreasonable to just hammer HQ, since HQ is basically free, to make sure that you're not hoarding agendas, and then, check the remote when you advance stuff. But yeah, this definitely did not look good for me. And I basically managed to win only because I saw 2 agendas of 2 on the Mad Dash.
Is there a data sucker in this deck?
Yes. There's Data Sucker, there's Ice Carver, which I have installed.
Yeah,
the trouble is you need a combination of both to get past stuff like Archangel. And I wasn't making too many central runs. I mean, I was making some.
I don't know if the Ice Carver is worth installing.
It might not be.
You have to run through Booth twice before it matters, and you take the hit up front.
That is very.
I don't know.
True,
I'm always like on the side of like not playing things that I might not need, and so I am always like kind of skeptical of that card. It's like there's a lot of games where people play it early and then it only saves them 3 credits, and it's like you probably shouldn't have played this.
I think it's generally worth it. For this particular matchup. The problem was after I rebirthed into Quetzal, there was no need to use Ice Carver for IP block, so there are
that's
much
true.
fewer
It
targets
saves you one
that
on IP.
So I think you're right about that. But
Yeah.
In general, those servers got taxing really quickly, and I basically pull all the points off centrals. As you see in you won't see all the games, but in most of the other games, the remote was just near impossible to contest. Like when you have 20 credits, you can't run through the remote twice.
Yeah.
How are you going to get 7 agenda points that way? It's really, really difficult. Right, so final thoughts. Endless EULA. Pretty good when you stack it on the remote.
Yeah, that's what you do with it. You don't really... I mean, I've put it on R&D before, but that's not usually the plan. You just put them on there. They usually get in once, and then they're like, screw this remote. Never again.
Because it's like, I wasn't aware that you had double EULA on the remote. I just stim hacked in thinking that I could use all my stim hack money to break it, but I ended up coming out behind, so... I mean, you don't expect that sort of stuff. And only to find an NGO that was... feels bad. Well, anyway, thanks so much for joining me today, Big Boy.
Yep.
And we'll be back in the next episode to feature another one of our sparring matches. So for now, it's goodbye from Abram
Bye bye.
and goodbye from me. Happy net running. See you next time.